How to make a washable, reusable cloth. With sustainable designer Lisa Cole. You will need A4 paper, a pen, ruler, paper scissors and fabric scissors, and if you've got one, a sewing machine. We've provided in your packs a little sewing kit with needle, thread and pins, a section of old towel and patterned fabric.
So what I'm going to do today is show you how to make an alternative for these things, because we throw away an awful lot of this stuff. Maybe yours isn't blue, maybe yours is white and you use it in the kitchen, but we're going to make an alternative for it. First you make your pattern, and I'm going to make a square to start with, which is just folding corner to corner. And then either folding that top down or you can make a line on it if you want, doesn't make much difference. I quite like to use my hands for measuring things, so I'm just going to put, say, 2 fingers there. 2 fingers or 1 finger? Okay, 2 fingers, and I want about that much as a seam allowance. Then I'm going to chop that off. With paper scissors, not fabric scissors. And the last thing I need to do is to make sure my hand will go into it and cut a little notch there and a little notch there. So that is now our pattern. Now I'm going to move over to the fabric. What I've got here is an old towel, and on top of the old towel I've got some fabric. The best kind of fabric for this is sort of duvet weight, sheeting weight shirts, something that's flexible and absorbent and dries quickly. And your towel, it may have a good side and a bad side. I think with this one it doesn't much matter. But I'm putting the good side of the fabric next to the good side of the towel. And I'm putting my pattern down. And I just want a couple of pins in there just to hold the pattern. So I'm going to go in like that. Oh, come on. And then on the other side, just to hold it in place. I've seen people use weights, but I'm kind of old school, and I much prefer to put a pin in something. But if you're the sort of person who likes to use a weight, then the weight will go here. Now I want my fabric scissors, yep, and I'm going to cut all the way around. It's really not something that you need to be very exact about. Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut these notches here, but I'm also going to cut tiny notches either end of that fold, just as a visual guide. Then I'm going to take the pattern out and put a couple of pins in to hold it in place. When you're sewing, if you put your pins in that way round, as the machine's chugging along, you can take them out quite easily. So if you were left-handed, put your pins in that way. But I'm right-handed, and I'm just going to put a pin in either side like this. Ooh, and we're ready to sew. So to start off with, I just want to have a little bit of a guideline. So I'm actually going to draw straight across from those little notches that we made, just so that I know that when I come round again, it's going to line up. Then I'm using this edge as a guide, the notch to where the needle goes in. I'm going to do a couple of stitches in, stitches back. I'm going to keep going until I get to this edge. So what I'm doing is I'm using the actual sewing machine as a guideline. You can see it's got all these guidelines here, but you can also use that and that. So we'll come along. If you were to sew over that, it probably wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's much better for your machine not to, so I'm going to take that out. And again, if you were left-handed, you want to not sew. Can you see that I'm not pulling the fabric? It's got these teeth underneath that are moving the thing along, so I don't need to be pulling it at all. I'm going to keep going until I get to there. And if I overshoot, I could just use the wheel on the side to turn it back. Again. All the way down until you get to there. Right, so I've got 2 different layers here, but it doesn't matter, I'm just taking an average. The needle's down and turning it around. And the foot's down, yep. And again, I don't want to risk it, so I'm taking that out, especially because it's not my machine. So now all the way down, what we want it to do is we want to be lining up with that one there. So we can see that that is about shy of a thumb width away. I'm doing this by eye, but there's no reason at all why you shouldn't mark it out and do it properly. I'm just trying to do it quickly. And then down to that marking there, and back a couple of goes. So what we've got is an oblong with a square inside. To fold all this in, that's way too much stuff, and you're going to get a big bump on the corner. So what I'm going to do is trim it down. The first thing I'm going to do is take some of the heavier stuff away. Just like that. It doesn't really matter. If I was to catch the one underneath, it wouldn't really be the end of the world. But if I have 2 layers, it's going to make it lie a little bit flatter. And it makes sense to take away more of the heavier stuff than it does to take away the light stuff. And then the last one here. And I'm not worried about that last edge. You'll see why in a minute. And then I want to try and take out some of the weight here. The way I do this is I use my thumb over that stitch so that I know that I won't actually cut the whole corner off. And then I take one slice like that, one slice like that. Then I go on this side, one slice like that, and on this side, one like that, one like that. So I'm not just going straight across. What I'm doing is I'm giving it enough space so that there's plenty of room inside there for those things to fold under. Then I can fold it out. I like these colours. I'll just get my hand in there. So there's a couple of things you can do first. You can shake it, and that might get some of the corners out. What you quite often see is people ramming knitting needles into the end, so that's not going to help you at all. What you want to be doing is to get in that sort of motion to try and get those corners out in the middle. So I can just, I don't know if you can see that okay, I'm just sort of gently pushing it out. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just to show you that that is the kind of really neat corner that you can get. And those ones. There we go. And you don't need to use the massive scissors, you could use the little scissors if you wanted to. It doesn't matter what side you're on or anything, but all that matters is that you're not just prodding at it because you're likely to get a bump. And I've got one more somewhere, where is it? There it is. So what I've got now is a nice neat square. I can use up these scraps inside it to give it a bit more padding and a little bit more absorbency. So looking at being as zero waste as possible. Just going to try and flatten those out, and now I just need to sew around it. So the reason that we left all this material here is so that it will definitely catch in when we sew it. And as a guide this time, I'm going to use the edge of the machine foot, which is there. So I'm just going to go all the way around, lining up that end. And off we go. And again, when you get near the end, you might want to roll your wheel forwards a couple of times to make sure you get to that corner properly. I'm not quite there, so I can go back. I can do one more. And again, and again. What happens if I sew and I don't go into the corner? So if I was to turn the corner now with that needle up, I mean, I can go anywhere with it. It's really not helping, is it? So that's why I say, if you're going to turn a corner, if you're going to move at all, make sure your needle's down, because that's going to look messy now. And also the machine might not like it. All those bumps. Last one, so we can do this one properly. Needle down, turn it up. Let's line it up. I'm going to go back a couple of times just to neaten that off. So that was the corner where I didn't put the needle down, and that's the corner where I have put the needle down. So there's a big difference, isn't there? It's worth the bother, and also I think it makes it a lot easier because you've got, otherwise you could go absolutely anywhere with it. I'm going to take a line from one corner to the other corner, just so that it stands a chance of lying a bit flat. Back a couple of stitches. I'm doing this by sight, but there's nothing at all to stop me from zigzagging, doing whatever I want. The first ones of these I just did a straight line, and I'm quite happy with a straight line. Might go a straight line that way. Once you can make this size, you can then start to think about what is going to be a useful size for you. And you can use exactly the same method to make something that is, really little, that you might want to use to take makeup off with, or something that's that sort of shape that you can hold to scrub with. I think the idea really is to just have a go with it in practice and see what sort of shapes and what sizes would be good for you. It doesn't even need to be square. It may be that if you wanted something that was that shape, that might be better for whatever you're trying to clean or whatever you want to do it with. But the idea is to prototype, use a piece of paper, use an old bit of fabric to prototype with, and then you can make it, and you can use the same method of making the pattern to make any shape and size. Hand sewn version, we don't need that seam allowance for the hand sewn version, so we just need the square, which was corner to corner. And instead of having the fabric right sides in, we've got the fabric right sides out, like that. So the first thing we do is we get a nice long bit of thread. I'm going to show you how to tie a knot the cheats way. I always got told off at school. So you lick your finger, which is not very COVID safe. You wrap the string around a couple of times and then you just roll it off. And then you pull down and you get a nice messy knot. What we want to be doing here is just folding things in. So I'm going to just hold it in place with a needle, with a pin, sorry. I've just folded in about so much, about a finger's width. And you go all the way around. I'm not going to go all the way around. This is a much slower process, obviously, than sewing. So we're going to fold in like that, and then 1, 2, and I'm going to put another pin in there just to hold it secure for a minute. And again, on this side, it might be easier to turn it over, so we can see where the corner is. Fold it in like that. And then it's a bit more difficult with the fairy side. You get the gist. And then I can get my pin out and go through all of it and secure it. So that's ready to go. I've got my thread with my nasty great big knot. I'm going to hide my nasty great big knot inside here. So I'm just going to go into the seam allowance like that. So no one's going to see the nasty knot. So I've got my needle in and I'm catching a bit of the toweling and I'm catching a bit of the fabric. I'm going towards myself. It wouldn't matter, you could go away from yourself, you just need to catch a little bit of each like that. Because the toweling is nice and fluffy, it's going to lose a lot of the stitching, so you're not going to see it. You're only going to see it on the side of the cotton. If I wanted to make it more decorative, I could maybe do a nice big buttonhole stitch like that. So I'm just putting my needle in and coming up through the loop. Yep. Or I could do nice big stitches that went all the way around. All you're trying to do is secure those two edges together. What I've seen people do, which is really clever, is they get a marker pen on their finger, on their thumb, so they have a line here and a line here, and they use that as their guide. You see how clever that is? I've never done it before, it's the first time I've done it. So you know that you're going to get even stitches. Oh no, my delicious tea! Should I use this?
Wait, no! Use the reusable cloth.
Oh yeah, look, it's so much better. And I can put it in the washing machine afterwards. Actually, it is loads better because look, if I was to use that, it would just turn into a little sort of mushy thing I have to throw out. So we were trying to do a joke commercial, but that is actually so much better.
The absorbency.
The absorbency is incredible.